Hey everyone, today let's talk about how chefs can get permanent residency in Australia. Now today's video is specifically going to be on chefs. So I know there is bakers, there's cooks, but they're a little bit different to chefs. This chefs I'm talking about today covers chefs as well as pastry chefs. So it's very different to how cooks and bakers and pastry cooks actually operate. And not to mention chefs are actually on the medium to long-term list in Australia. So there's other benefits of that. Now, before we get stuck into it, my name is Tracy Chen. I'm the principal lawyer at Mason Chen Law Group. If you want to get in contact with myself for a consultation or one of our fabulous lawyers or agents, I've dropped our contact link below. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you stay up to date with all the different visa updates and migration pathways in Australia. I have never seen so much change that I have in the last 2 years. Obviously, it was all caused by COVID, and now we are seeing the after effects of it now, which is insane. So lots of exciting things happening at the moment. And to be honest, one of the occupations that I've seen that there's been the biggest demand for migration-wise in Australia is chefs. So if you're a qualified chef and have work experience, great, this video is for you. If you're someone who wants to also study commercial cookery, become a chef, and also migrate to Australia, this video is also for you. So first of all visas in Australia, you need to meet the minimum English requirement. Now, there are some slight differences depending on the visas, but for all the skilled visas I'll talk about later, the 491, 190, and 189, you definitely need to have at least competent English, which is 6 in each band. However, due to competitiveness in terms of skilled visa, because it's points based, you might want to consider trying to get higher English. So that's either 7 each, or even some of our chefs have superior English, which is 8 each. However, I must say the majority has proficient English at this point, which is 7 each, which is good. Now, some of the employer-sponsored visas, the English requirement is less. So for the 482, there's no requirement to have competent English. You just need to demonstrate English language proficiency. Normally speaking, for the 482 visa, for chefs, you're sponsored under the medium-term stream, as chefs are on the medium-term occupation list. So if you're being sponsored on the temporary skilled shortage 482 visa, then you need to have at least 5 each for English, which is English language proficiency. Not proficient English, English language proficiency. So it's a little bit different there. But first of all, let's talk about some of the requirements to even be qualified to migrate as a chef in Australia. And again, this is going to change depending on the visa subclass you're applying for. So first of all, let's talk about skilled visas. So this requirement covers for 491 visa, 189 visa, and the 190. Now, to qualify for the state nomination order, that's a completely different ballgame, and I've done separate videos on that. But to qualify for an expression of interest, let's talk about some of the requirements. In Australia, a chef is someone who's completed a diploma or higher and has work experience. However, in some instances, work experience can be used in low of the qualification. So if you have 3 years full-time work experience as a chef, you potentially could get a skills assessment and have your skills assessment assessed as a chef. So if you've got an overseas diploma and you've got work experience, depending on the skills assessing body, you would submit your documentation to have your skills assessed. Normally, we have a client who has an overseas qualification, for example, a diploma of culinary arts from Singapore, and has 3 years full-time work experience. We would submit that to Vet Assess or Trades Recognition Australia and have those skills assessed. And hopefully they have a positive skills assessment. Once you have a full positive skills assessment, you'd be eligible to apply for a skilled visa, an expression of interest, to be invited for a skilled visa in Australia. Now, those who study in Australia, the pathway is a little bit different, so don't get that confused. So for example, if you come to Australia or you want to apply for a student visa to study in Australia, it usually looks like this. So you would usually do a certificate 3, certificate 4 in commercial cookery. You would also do a diploma of hospitality. Once you complete that, you would usually go on a 485 visa, which is the temporary graduate work visa, which gives you 2 years in Australia. Then you do this work experience called Job Ready program. Essentially, you have to work for 1 year as a chef, and then after that 1 year of successfully completing your Job Ready program, they will give you a full skills assessment, and it'll be a Job Ready program outcome, successful skills assessment. That's how the pathway usually looks like in Australia. So the Australia would be the certificate 3 for commercial cookery, diploma in hospitality, and then the 1 year work experience. them combined would give you a positive skills assessment to apply for a skilled visa in Australia. Whereas overseas, usually it would be a diploma or higher and 3 years work experience, or just the 3 years work experience in low. So overseas, it'd usually be the diploma plus 3 years full-time work experience, and you would be able to obtain a positive skills assessment. If you are overseas, I highly recommend getting some advice from a migration agent or lawyer to assess all your work experience, to assess all your qualifications, to see if you're eligible for a positive skills assessment. But just remember, before you do anything, you need a skills assessment. And usually the skills assessment is a combination of assessment of your documents to make sure you actually have the work experience, your pay slips, your resume, your work reference. And then once they're satisfied with that, then they will actually go out and go to your workplace and do an actual workplace assessment. And look, if you're a chef, it's easy. You'll be able to do it with your eyes closed. It's not hard at all. Similar to the Australian pathway there as well. There's also a cohort of people who have the qualifications based on recognized prior learning, also known as RPL. Again, that's a separate whole thing together, but yes, it's possible. You would get your work experience assessed through recognized prior learning. They'll give you a qualification. Then using that plus the work experience, you potentially can apply for a skills assessment. So I can't go into them in detail because I could talk for days on this, but in saying that, if you like, oh, I kind of fit there, or I kind of fit there, then you're on the right track to applying for a migration pathway to Australia. So let's just assume you have gotten your skills assessment. Remember, it has to be a full skills assessment, not like a provisional one or a temporary TSS one. For skilled visa, you need the full skills assessment. So then you would look at applying for the 491, 190 or 189 visa. Remember, for the 491 and 190, they're both state-sponsored visas. So to even qualify, yes, you need to lodge an expression of interest on Skills Select first, but depending on what state you want to migrate to, you need to check what the requirements there as well. So whether you're onshore or you're offshore, you need to check the set of requirements there. You'll see the videos that I've made for Victoria 190 or WA 491. They're the videos you need to look for to see if you qualify as a chef to apply there. 189 skilled independent visa does not require state sponsorship. So you would literally just make sure you meet the requirements on Skills Select and you lodge an expression of interest and wait for an invitation. But I was actually speaking to clients yesterday and I say, all right, I know you qualify for this, but we actually need to focus on this, because just because you qualify, you look at it and you're like, oh, I qualify, I just lodge and I can just wait for a skills assessment. Just because you qualify doesn't mean you'll get invited. Whereas I am very aware of what is more likely to be invited because we have numbers, we have data to base this on. We have a lot of clients and I'm looking, all right, most of our chefs got invited here, or most of my chefs didn't even get invited for this. So yes, we may lodge it, but in no way would the strategy to be just lodging and wait for that. It would never be that. Be like, all right, we're going to do that because you're qualified, but this is the one we're focusing on. For example, I have a client who I was like, yep, look, let's focus on the 190 in South Australia based on their requirements and their situation. I'm like, yep, I think you're going to get 190 in South Australia. This is what we're going to do to work towards it. So I think it's very important to have a realistic understanding of that. And again, everybody's situation is different in that sense. So other than that, there is your employer sponsored options, which is temporary skills shortage 482 visa, and also your direct entry 186 visa. So those are the two options you'll be looking for. Now, again, employer sponsored visas, there are many Australian employers who are looking to sponsor and bring chefs from overseas because there is just a huge demand in Australia at the moment. So if you're looking for jobs on Australian job search platforms such as Jora or Seek, and you want to apply for a job, just apply. And when the employer reaches out to you for an interview, they'll find out that you're overseas, and trust me, there will be discussions on bringing you to Australia and sponsoring you as a chef for their business. We work with many hospitality businesses across Australia who sponsor these chefs on 482 as well as the 186 direct entry visa. So I hope that gives you a broad overview of the requirements for a chef to apply for a visa in Australia. Now, the visa I just spoke about, the 491 and 482, they're temporary visas, but they have a pathway to permanent residency, which is like, you can pretty much say guaranteed. I don't like saying guaranteed, but there's like a direct pathway for permanent residency there. Otherwise, the 189 and 190 are already permanent residency visas. So once you get it, you're already a permanent resident of Australia. But obviously, if you're going to go straight from that to permanent residency, there is their own issues with that. It's obviously more competitive. So it is what it is. The first part I spoke about, the skills assessment, that is a little bit tricky, but I hope I gave you a good understanding when you're kind of like, oh, I kind of fit there, or I kind of fit there, or no, I don't fit any of this because I don't have a qualification qualification and I've only got 1 year work experience. I hope that gives you a basic understanding of the requirements so that you can confidently move forward with your migration agent or lawyer and exploring a migration pathway there for you. Again, we can assist with these applications. I left our contact details below. Feel free to reach out to us. Also, I'll be putting more detailed workshops on my website, which is courses.tracymigration.com. Mini courses are for chefs, for different occupations as well, that are more in detailed. So hopefully you enjoyed the video today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with people who need it. If there's any video topics that you're interested in, drop it in the comments below and I'll do my best to get to them. Thank you so much and I'll see you guys in the next video.